Okay, you may be wondering how something so tiny can cause such big problems in the human body. So, we're going to go through a few ways that bacteria cause disease in humans. The first and the most common one is it releases toxins. So, this little bacteria produces toxins and then squirts them into your bloodstream. And those toxins travel to your body to different locations and cause a variety of symptoms, such as sore throat, rash, fever when your body tries to zap something with heat. One thing that people do on purpose, which I think is kind of interesting, is they inject themselves with this paralyzing bacteria. It's a bacteria that kind of has a funky name, Clostridium botulinum. Basically, it causes botulism, which leads to paralysis. So they're injecting themselves with these little bacteria, and it's called Botox is the name of the chemical that they created, and it causes paralysis in the forehead in these little muscles. For several months they have to get these re-injections, and you can always tell when someone lifts their eyebrows and their forehead doesn't wrinkle. That's how you know they have Botox, because it can't, because these little bacteria that they've squirted into their forehead or wherever they get it where there's wrinkles will cause those muscles to paralyze for a while. So it's a very interesting form of not plastic surgery, but chasing youth, etc. And it also has actually some positive effects. You can get these Botox injections in places where you get muscle spasms, and it will cause paralysis there, which can be relieving for some people. But the most popular that you know about would be the Botox injections. Okay, so bacteria release toxins. That makes you sick. Bacteria can also destroy your body tissue. There's a condition called tuberculosis that's caused by a bacteria that eats through your body cells, and it destroys your body cells. And when body cells are destroyed, it leaves these openings and these gaps. And tuberculosis can give you very, very severe colds and lung infections. It's highly contagious, but only when you show symptoms. So this is tuberculosis. It causes diseases by destroying your body tissue. And then bacteria, they reproduce quick. Sometimes they can double their population every 20 minutes. Can you imagine if humans could double their population every 20 minutes instead of a human being pregnant for 9 months? That's nuts. So they overpopulate and they overcrowd our cells. And when cells get overcrowded, sometimes their normal functioning is damaged. Another way is through spore formation. Spores form in bacteria when conditions are not favorable for growth. So they cause most of their cytoplasm to die, and they create these things called spores. So they retain all of their DNA and a small portion of their cytoplasm, and they hunker down into these very, very resilient spores, and they wait for favorable conditions to start to germinate again. So let me show you something very interesting about spores causing bacterial infections. Right after the 9/11 attacks in America, where they rammed planes into the Twin Towers, there was another form of terrorism called bioterrorism. And these terrorists, or it actually ended up not being a terrorist, but he committed suicide, so there's not a lot on him. But he put these spores, these anthrax spores, inside of mail and sent it to a senator and other postal workers. And when they opened the mail, they would breathe in these spores. And when they breathed in these spores, it would cause this condition called anthrax. Let me show you guys this video.
During harsh conditions, the large rod-shaped bacteria that cause anthrax develop into spores that can be released into the air and inhaled. Inhaled spores are swept into the trachea, which divides into the bronchus. Because of their small size, the spores are carried into smaller and smaller bronchioles, eventually reaching the tiny alveolar sacs of the lung. In the alveolar spaces, immune cells called macrophages engulf the spores and attack them with enzymes. Although some spores are destroyed, many others survive the immune attack. The surviving spores travel through the lymphatic system and accumulate inside lymph nodes in the chest. After a period of time, the spores will germinate and grow into full-fledged anthrax bacteria, which replicate within the lymph nodes. As these bacteria multiply, they produce harmful toxins that cause the lymph nodes to swell and hemorrhage. The The toxins also travel through the bloodstream, rapidly producing the dramatic symptoms of anthrax. Within a few days after the initial exposure, cold-like symptoms including fever, cough, aches, and general malaise develop. Although some people experience a brief recovery, this is followed by a rapid onset of more serious symptoms.
Okay, so that is spores being breathed in and forming into these anthrax, very harmful bacteria. The next one I want to show you is salmonella. And salmonella is when you eat undercooked chicken or you eat something contaminated by poultry when someone doesn't do proper food handling. But watch this. Salmonella bacteria have a superpower once they enter a cell. I think you'll find it interesting.
Full speed. Nice Motel salmonella screaming along here. Meow, here she comes. Boom. Okay, it's got a type 3 secretion system, squirts in proteins, triggers major event. Meow, here she comes. Boom. Satisfied, right? Haven't taught these videos how to burp yet. Okay, bacteria's inside. The vacuole coming in. This is Chris's finger pushing the salmonella in. Here's our bacteria. The yellow stuff is actin. That's what's pulling the bacteria in, and it's absolutely needed. We then have fusion with things called early endosomes. This is a normal event. Then we're going to zoom in on the bacteria. We're going to see a second type 3 secretion system, a second syringe that's actually going to put proteins out into this vacuole. Poof. Now we have a protective coating. Now bring on the lysosomes. Bring on the toxic delivery particles. Bacteria doesn't care. You're going to see these things come in, ka-tink, ka-tink, glance off. It blocks the fusion of these things, so it's not going to die. Not only that, it starts to divide and divide and divide. Eventually, it'll divide so much that this thing will actually probably explode and then release the bacteria. We don't know anything about the final event, and that's why I wouldn't let the video animators draw the cell exploding, because we don't know that happens yet. We guess it does, but we haven't seen it.
Okay, so how do bacteria cause disease? In summary, they release toxins, they destroy your body cells, thus destroying your tissue. They overcrowd cells, interrupting their normal function. They create breathable spores that enter your body and cause disease. And then they can enter your body cells, form these protective coats around themselves, and multiply. And once they are multiplied in your body, they can cause you to have increasingly worse symptoms.